All right. Thanks everyone for coming to the AppExchange Den. So come on in if you are hesitant. My name is Ludovic Ulrich. You might have seen in the program, Brandon Lopez was supposed to present. This gentleman is in my team. He had a family incident, so I'm stepping in to basically try to tell you why we think there is an AppExchange Renaissance. And so the good news about having the backup speaker is that my French, native language, I'm going to make it, is actually French, so I think I can pronounce Renaissance pretty well. So happy to challenge anyone after the session. All right, that joke aside, we want to be a little bit serious here and try to inspire some of you about what's going on in our ecosystem. So just a little bit about me. I actually run a team, part of the AppExchange group, that manages Salesforce for Startup, which is everything we do for startup at Salesforce. So we have a program, we do different things, different initiatives. We have Dream Pitch tomorrow, we have the Startup Valley. So all those things, towards the startup audience. Is there anyone in the room who happens to work in a startup who is starting to create something in stealth mode on the side? Kind of, don't be shy. How many developers? Just regular developers, okay. And admins? Assuming more or less the rest? Okay, cool. So it's good, it's perfect audience. We know it's not a startup conference, but we're trying to tell you maybe that there is an opportunity to think about it, maybe as a next step in your career or something like this. And I also ran the Incubator, which is in Soma in San Francisco, that we launched actually a year ago, where we help a bunch of startups, 12 at the time, to build pretty innovative stuff using our platform, and specifically for the current batch with Einstein Technologies. You might have guessed this. And so if you want to check some of those companies, they're right there at the Startup Valley, Silicon Valley, Startup Valley, in case you didn't get it, you can talk to them. So anyway, that's what I do. Classic, forward-looking, don't make any decision based on forward-looking statement I may make during this presentation, but still think about what it could be for your career to think about this app revolution. So what we're going to do is I'm going to try to inspire you on why you should build an app and actually, more importantly, build a business, because we're talking here about the idea of building a business on the AppExchange, on the Salesforce platform. Try to give you a quick overview of what we announced actually a month ago about the new Renaissance, the new renovated AppExchange Partner Program. I'll share with you some technical best practices, just so that you start with the right, some of the right thinking. If you end up starting something, if some of you are already building something, I see folks like from CRM Science here. They have a lot of best practices. So we have a lot of people at the Startup Valley who can expand on this. All right, build an app, build a business. And just that is actually pretty unique, because if you look at the rest of the industry, whether you're looking at big partners like AWS or other cloud providers, usually it's a very technical message. It's about cloud computing, and go build your app, and technically speaking, this is what I do. This is my compute, my storage. I think when you hear from Salesforce about that topic, we always bring the two work stream. Build an app, but also build a business. The two go together, and I think that's what's very empowering, right? You could actually, using the playbook and using everything that we're building around AppExchange, build a company, not just a little feature or something that's not going to go anywhere. So we're trying to inspire you to do that. And it's kind of a traditional thing where people say it's never been a better time to do that. So, full disclaimer, I'm going to say that again. But here's an interesting stat. By 2025, look at what's going to happen. Customers are putting in the cloud everything. So back 20 years ago, I think it's already 20 years ago, 1999 almost, when Salesforce kind of, went after the CRM, by that I mean Salesforce automation market, it was just one little bubble here. But now, look at all those bubbles that needs to be, basically disrupted, and that's the word that we usually use, right, in the startup kind of space. So there is this opportunity. We need to cloudify all those bubbles, and the opportunity is there. It's just a matter of finding your niche, finding one of those bubbles, maybe cross it with a vertical that you feel passionate about, and that you have some sort of, legitimacy or some network, and potentially get started. But again, it's just to tell you that the market is there, and large corporation needs that. They need that, but how are they going to trust a small company, a startup? That's usually a problem. All right. I don't trust my laptop. All right. Oh, here we go. All right. So, oops. So what they want is a trusted cloud platform, right? By definition, if you're going to start a business, thank you very much, it's going to be better if you build it on a trusted cloud platform. So most of you know Salesforce, you were at the keynote, you probably know us, I won't bother you with too much of this, but trust is our number one value, and that's something you can bet on and rely on when you're going to build that. Number two, the single system of record, system of engagement is actually very important, because when you look at those bubbles from the previous slide, that's kind of what you can tell your customers. You can say, hey, you bought Salesforce here and there, you're using this AppExchange Partner there, what about this bubble? That's what I'm building, that's what I'm passionate about. I'm a legit Salesforce developer for like 10, 15 years, whatever, and here's what I'm building. So there is kind of a nice way to get in and potentially get your first customers. And last but not least, they expect innovation from our ecosystem. So that's why my job exists and all the initiative that my team does exist. We need to foster and nurture this ecosystem and encourage you to actually bring this innovation above and beyond us. And most customers can find it on the AppExchange marketplace, but that's kind of what they expect from us. We have this reputation to be, and all those awards and accolades from the press to be an innovative company. So we expect you guys to come with us, and I think our customers expect indeed to see that very vibrant ecosystem and set of applications that are coming up in the market. A little bit of a lag. All right. All right, so I think I skipped a slide. Let's go back. It's not too smooth. All right. OK, that slide is basically like, and you're not alone. So how many of you have been at Salesforce since 2006 when the AppExchange started? Like, well, you were in the ecosystem. A few? I know a few, right? So if you go see Mike Crittenden on the booth there in my team, like who's been there at the very beginning of the AppExchange, that was a small club, of companies who are now kind of famous brands. If you look at Viva, who went IPO. If you look at companies like Aptus, I mean, you see those logos. ServiceMax, Kennedy, some went IPO, some got acquired. So that was kind of the first generation. We're getting to a phase now. Last year, we hit 4 million downloads. So the club is much bigger now. But the ambition for us, and when I mentioned Renaissance, we doubled down at Salesforce. There's a lot of internal changes at Salesforce, a new leadership, et cetera, to double down on the AppExchange. And we need your help to get to that 10 million installs. We can do that two ways, right? With the existing, helping the existing partners, but also recruiting, a new generation of startups, let's call it like this, who could actually join the party and join the AppExchange ecosystem. You heard this morning at the keynote about the Salesforce economy and the number of jobs that we're creating and all that stuff. That's kind of what's basically the one click down of what we're talking about here. So the value prop for you, just to summarize, which we call the AppExchange Partner Advantage, in case it was not clear to you, is of course access to customers, right? And that's usually what a lot of startups and founders who come to me or apply to the Incubator expect from Salesforce. One of the things we do, though, to get on the AppExchange, we package access to customers with the technology. The two comes together, right? And so that's the number thing. You access that world-class, highly scalable platform, including Einstein, et cetera, as part of this partner advantage. And something that people think about a little bit less often is the access to, fellow partners. There's a lot of initiative where partners help each other go to markets, package the software together, and actually to try to reassure, some customers that there is a nice little bundle of solution that could help them go digital transformation and all those things, right? So you access that ecosystem as well, as part of the credibility that we basically build together. Just to tell you, I could have brought a bunch of different logos and case studies that you'll find on our website, actually, or go browse on the AppExchange to see kind of the highlighted partners. Just wanted to highlight those guys, those companies who are, again, at the startup rally right there, just joined the Incubator 2 months ago, and that's the bet they made. They basically, in some shape or form, understood that value proposition. They applied to the Incubator, and they're building some innovative application on the platform. Some of them are what I would call, some people ask me what it means, but let's say in short, native, building entirely on Force.com or a combination of Force and Heroku. Others already built something, let's say on AWS, and they're coming to us to say, how can we get more of that partner advantage? How can we have access to those customers? What can we build in Lightning to basically be part of that ecosystem, right? So I encourage you to go meet them, of course, at the booth. All right, this thing is like not under control. All right, this is what we announced. I promised you in the agenda I would give you a quick summary of what we announced a month and a half ago about the AppExchange Partner Program. First of all, we rename it AppExchange Partner Program. You might have heard about ISV, independent software vendors, partner program, et cetera. We make it simple. It's the AppExchange Partner Program. What it does is we really focus on a few things, 3 things, plus the business model itself. Usually the way I heard about it the first time when I joined Salesforce 3 years ago at Dreamforce was the more you grow, the more we grow, the more you grow. Or actually, the more you grow, the more we grow, meaning it's a revenue share. So we don't charge platform for startups, for companies building a product by computer, by storage, like the rest of the industry does. It's a revenue share. And we standardize that revenue share to 15%. So the more simple analogy is the Apple App Store, right? Apple takes 30% and you get 70%. In the Salesforce model and the AppExchange, it's a 15-85 model. So of course, you get the 85%. And that basically includes the platform, the technology, as well as the go-to-market, the AppExchange, et cetera, et cetera. So we standardized that, in case you didn't know, we had different percentages before to 15%, which is pretty low in the market, right? And allow you not to have a lot of upfront costs, because basically, again, the more you grow, the more that percentage will grow, and everybody wins. We also increase what we call trust and transparency. And I mean, just to make it simple, we came up with the idea of a score. And the idea is to help actually the smaller partners, where we're not going to take into account only the revenue you generate, that ACV that represents that 15%. We're going to take into account a lot of different other criteria. Like, for instance, the product reviews that you get on the AppExchange, the quality of your app, what we hear in the markets. You know, are you getting involved in some of the community events? All those more qualitative metrics, and we have more details online, you can check it out. And the whole idea is to help the newcomers, who are by definition smaller, who are by definition not going to generate, you know, hundreds of thousands of ACV back to Salesforce, and to give them a chance to basically come up in the ecosystem. When we say faster and easier to do business, we heard loud and clear that we needed to do a better job at streamlining the onboarding experience when you decide to become an AppExchange Partners and go on the partner community and all the way to the listing. So we're working on a lot of, guess what, smart, intelligent kind of workflows, online onboarding, self-service aspects, you know, click-through agreement, all that stuff to modernize a little bit the experience. And that's what I meant by the Renaissance. We doubled down in terms of investment internally to make that experience even more flawless, in case you had experiences in the past and that was not optimal. And last but not least, we increased the number of benefits. So of course, we want to make sure that most of our developers who don't necessarily know Heroku have a chance to start that. So we include some Heroku credits. Of course, DX, that you heard about it. We include access to DX and a bunch of different things coming up all around the developer experience. So for those of you who raise your hand when you're developers, we want to make sure that that set of people who basically become partners have access to all that, you know, as early as possible. So that's the new partner program. One of the things that people don't necessarily realize on the platform, and of course we can talk about technology and the ins and outs of what you can build and different services, but some people don't realize that as part of the platform, you get access to all those technical benefits and technologies that basically we use ourselves internally. Talking about licensing management or license management, when you're building a SaaS B2B application, you're going to have to build that no matter what, right? And if you're starting from zero, you know, using AWS and starting in Java, good luck, you need to do that. Of course, you're going to need also to build workflows, identity management. That's kind of the traditional, you know, Force.com platform. But you also need to manage all that stuff. You know, channel order, like we have that as part of the platform. Provisioning trials, it's something to build in itself. So just look at all those aspects. That's also something, you know, again, I know I'm talking to an audience who is likely to know Salesforce, so it kind of rings a bell. But when I go to a more like third-party events with, you know, startup who don't hear about us as a platform, they hear about us more of a Salesforce CRM kind of a, you know, end customers products. I like to remind all that stuff because that's going to help you go to market. And literally, you don't have to build all that stuff. You can take all those elements and basically start selling, I mean, on day X, depending on how fast you go to build the actual, you know, first prototype. Another thing as well that we sometimes insist on is actually all the best practices that we've been over the last, you know, years since 2006. So when you look at all those early logos, those early adopters of the AppExchange, those early ISV / you know, startups who became big companies, we built basically a lot of knowledge on how to do all those things, right? So of course, the issue is in today's world, folks who buy online like a SaaS, you know, B2B app, they have no idea if you're a 5-people company or 20-people company. They're going to expect all of the above, right? They're going to expect like you servicing them like your Uber, right? That's what kind of where the bar is, which is kind of a little bit overwhelming because you're a small 5-people startup. Literally, you're going to have customer service in place. You're going to have to, you know, distribute that like in a rock solid way, you know, and you know, have the best, you know, get inspired by the best sales best practices because again, they're going to expect to be, you know, to be contacted after you try a trial and all that stuff. So we try to consolidate a lot of that knowledge into like bite-sized content that's actually totally available for free on the partner community, and package it up into buckets. So again, I think what our team can do as well is help you figure out of that set of content where to start and how to leverage that content. That's a lot of what we're doing at the Salesforce Incubator, is trying to understand, based on the phase of those companies, where they should go. Do they need to be rock solid at the sales process straight from the beginning? Maybe not. But customer service, highly likely, yes. Maybe they should spin off Desk.com very quickly, even to get feedback that basically around the product and do their proper customer discovery, product iteration using customer service as a tool for it. So again, we created a lot of content that it's in self-service as long as you join the partner community. I wanted to highlight this. Any question on this? Anybody has used that content? I've seen it? No? That's always the problem when you work in a company like Salesforce. We build a lot of stuff, and you always want to make sure that people discover it, right? So again, do me a favor. If you end up starting the process, really check this content. We went through a massive update process to remove what was obsolete and old, and make sure all the content is there and packaged under. And I give you the link at the end of the presentation. It's called the App Toolkit. All right. Wow. Let's talk about best practices. Of course, this is full of best practices, right? All right, this thing. Okay, technical success, practices and ideas. So one of the funny thing about the AppExchange Partner Program, a lot of people have horror stories about the security review. Who has heard about one of those? Maybe? Okay, why? Because it takes too much time. I failed. What's going on? And then you need to call maybe a partner to help you, like CRM Science, or etc. So we streamlined that process a lot, and again, comes back from that Renaissance. We basically build a team that can actually process those much quicker and improve the documentation. I'm just going to be honest. A lot of the failed security reviews are mostly coming from the startups who have a tendency to go quick on the documentation and checking on those things. And we don't mess with that. Trust is our #1 value. That's kind of the commitment we have to our customers when you publish on the AppExchange. Trust has to be there. You need to be reviewed by our security team. But I'm going to tell you something. Security review, I forgot exactly if it's $1,600 or $1,800. It's probably the cheapest security certification on the market. If it was me, and I guess I could technically influence my team to do that, we should start with that on the AppExchange website. It's literally a best way for a startup to get a security legit certification for only such a small price tag. It's still your job to convince the security team, but honestly, in some accounts where they already validated Force.com as a platform, you could literally start the sales process at stage #4, right? Because you have to you're building basically on a platform that's already trusted. Don't get me wrong; they'll probably check where your data is coming from and a few other things, but it could be really game changer. So again, think of security review not as a step in the process to become an AppExchange Partners, but maybe as the ultimate goal for you. Some companies, based on what they're doing, the listing on the AppExchange may or may not be the most important thing. They might get lead from the AppExchange listing, but maybe not, depending on the industry they go after. If it's a very niche industry, maybe the customers don't go on the AppExchange. They don't even know they exist, right? If you go after Fortune 100, 90% of the Fortune 100 companies already purchase at least one app on the AppExchange. Great, highly likely it's going to be a good lead engine for you, but it may or may not be the case. So think about security review, and think about security all the way through. In enterprise software, again, I'm saying very basic stuff here, but that's kind of the beauty of going through the process that's very formalized of getting from 0 to the AppExchange listing, and we try to coach you to do that all the way to the security review that sanctions basically a fail or pass kind of test. Okay, think enterprise scale. So same thing. I said earlier that in today's world, you never know if you're dealing with a 5-people company or 200-people company. And I'm not saying you should lie, but you should totally play with it. I think there is, I was in Paris 2 weeks ago at a conference called Viva Tech, where all the largest European companies had basically massive booths with a bunch of startups around them. And that tells you that this bridge between corporation and startup is there. It's not a fad. It's not just fashionable to engage with startup. they really literally want to get innovation, especially when it touches AI. We're doing a good job, I think, as a company trying to educate the masses. C-levels of companies that, through Einstein and AI, it's going to revolutionize the business. That's a great opportunity for you. I think you can totally surf that wave if you have an idea to try to go sell to enterprise. But you need to be trusted. That was the previous slide. And of course, you need to be ready for the scale of those big enterprises. The good news with Salesforce platform, if you architect that in the right way, following some of those, I let you read the slide, but some of those, common sense recommendations and work with the right partners, maybe, etc., you can literally, on day one, when you ship your V1, ask something that's going to scale. Are you going to improve the UI and some of the features, etc.? Of course, but in terms of security and trust, that's kind of the baseline. And I'm spending my day, I shouldn't say that, but I'm spending a fair amount of time talking to large customers who come to Salesforce and trying to encourage them to give a chance to companies who make a bet on our platform. Because again, if they might as well trust you guys, even though they're a small company, if you make the bet of the platform, which they technically, from a security standpoint, validated already internally. And I would argue that, again, this idea of building on a trusted platform is something that a lot of startups who build with us don't necessarily put forward. They put maybe a little Salesforce website at the bottom of the Salesforce logo at the bottom of the website. I would really think about it hard and see how in your marketing you can actually leverage that. And be lightning ready. So this is Trailhead DX 2017, so it's more about Einstein and lightning this year. Some of you might realize that, but still, it is super important. How many of you knew about this? That customer can still use Lightning in Classic. Not everybody, right? So this is actually an interesting thing. Of course, we're doing our best, and there's a lot of internal efforts. A lot of partners are helping us to make sure that our customers are using Lightning. But it doesn't block you from building stuff on Lightning, of course, as a startup. Which, by the way, if you're thinking you're gonna start a company, I would highly encourage you to start on a new technology by definition, right? By the way, we also make it required. If you want to be listed on the AppExchange now, you need to be Lightning ready. So, which is of course a requirement to move the ecosystem forward. But here's my tip as well on this. Lightning is moving Salesforce from a world where we're not very famous for UI and UX to a place where we're thought leaders. Literally, I remember I was not a Salesforce employee yet. 3 years ago, I attended Dreamforce. And on the last day, Parker Harris and Mark Benioff do this little discussion. And Mark made that statement that that Salesforce at the time needed to step up on UX. And we hired some of the best minds in user interface here. And the Lightning Design System is literally leading the industry, similar to what Google did with the material design back in the days, a few years back. We're leading that. So if you're starting a new company, I wouldn't over-engineer. Just take the Lightning Design System, all the logos, all the templates, everything, and just use it. Of course, you're going to be consistent with Salesforce, but above and beyond this is something that's awesome that customers love, and I would, of course, take into account straight from the beginning. If you want to hear more, the good news is I did my homework. There's a session on this at 12:15 tomorrow. So it's literally how to make good use of those best practices. So again, it was pretty common sense, right? I don't think I was totally breakthrough with those advice, but believe it or not, this is always a good reminder. And if you basically rate a lot of the startups that I'm meeting, whether they want to join the incubator, they want to be connected to my colleague from Salesforce Ventures, and when you review basically where they're at in terms of security and really embracing it, and really looking about certification, about enterprise scale. And of course, in the context of Salesforce having the right design, they don't score all that well all the time, right? And that's a lot of what we're doing at the incubator. So if you check all those boxes, I'm going to tell you, for the next batch, you would be a very good applicant. So I'm going to finish with 2 slides. Okay, it goes too fast, this thing. All right, back. Okay, so resources, everything I've been talking about is there. If you're still in the phase where you're an admin and developers, you're not there yet, you just came here out of curiosity, and you still want to understand, what's the AppExchange and have some sort of high-level overview, or convince maybe a co-founder to actually join you in this adventure, look at this page. It came live only a few months back, where we try to tell the story in a very simple way. You'll recognize a few of the mascots, of course, they're helping us tell that story. One of them being Happy, that's actually the AppExchange mascot. So p.force.com is where you go when you're ready. You join that partner community, you have access to a lot of those resources. You'll see the different steps you need to go through from zero to going to the AppExchange. You get your developer org, you get all those resources. And specifically within the partner community, the app toolkit is basically consolidated all those best practices that I mentioned earlier about selling, marketing, going to market, channel, et cetera, et cetera. And last but not least, there wouldn't be any good slide without a call to action to Trailhead. We're trying to put a lot of that content in Trailhead. Some people like that way to deliver the message, right? So there's a lot of nice ISV basic trails that I encourage you to check. And as you know, there's a great incentive to get some badges this week to give some to some charities. So by all means, try to check it out. All right, so that's for the resources. And since I have another few minutes before getting into the Q&A, let me plug in quickly the Incubator. All right. So this is what we do at the Salesforce Incubator. We're trying to get some companies who express the willingness to go big in our ecosystem and get them to the AppExchange as one of the outcomes of the program. It's not the only outcome. Some of them will fundraise. Some of them will actually build a new features that may or may not be a good fit for the AppExchange. But we basically help those companies. And they are the happy few, right? They get white glove treatment. There's a full-time team helping them. They get access to product management. It's a very intense 5-month program. The good news is we do that without taking any equity. So it's actually all good for the companies. We might invest in some of them. Actually, in batch 1, we ended up investing in 3 of those companies. But that's not the goal. The goal is to basically come to San Francisco and try to get as much as you can from Salesforce and become potentially a success story, become a trailblazer. Maybe have your face on Moscone West next in a few months at Dreamforce. And so I think one of the key assets that Salesforce has for those of you who live in the Bay Area, how many of you live in the Bay Area? Oh, I like it. It's only a small section. So, not being from here myself, we're trying to expand that. Right now, it's only in San Francisco. I have Julie in the back, who is based in London. So if you have some UK-based people, by all means, connect with Julie. She can, at the scale of, London not being our headquarter or any other city not being our headquarter and main engineering hub, we have a great set of, engineers internally, but more importantly, a massive network of ex-Salesforce people who created their company that we basically rally through the incubator and try to help those companies as much as we can. The good news is if you live in the Bay Area or here traveling, we do more or less one public event every month where we try to share that love and create some sort of center of gravity for the ecosystem. So you're all, of course, welcome to join. The theme of the current batch is Einstein. So it's focused on building smart apps. So if you look at the 13 companies, many of them knew the platform very well, and they're basically trying to go deeper with Einstein, and we give them access to some things that we didn't necessarily release under NDA and all that good stuff. Others didn't really know Salesforce. They just knew they had to, at some point, play in our ecosystem. So usually they have at least some sort of API integration, but they want to go deeper. They want to build the Lightning apps. They want to get on the AppExchange, and that's what we do. All right, so this is my last slide. AppExchange, you got already the go-to-market. And if you're interested in applying for the incubator, it's actually pretty convenient because we just opened application for batch 3 actually last week. So you have until July 15. And we're looking on top of platform and Einstein, which is kind of the baseline now. We're looking at companies who are focused on 3 verticals: retail, financial services, and healthcare. So, which is pretty classic. Retail is very broad, so we'll be open-minded in terms of seeing the intersection with those verticals. But those are very strong verticals for Salesforce. We happen to have our own products in those space. If financial services cloud, and of course we're cooking some stuff in the other verticals. So that's why we pick those. Usually the companies applying already have 5 to 10 employees. It's not like a formal criteria, but we're not here to get you bootstrapped. That's not what we do. That's not what my team does. We're more here to help you go to the next level. That could translate into, if you like thinking about financial milestone into raising a Series A or something like this. It's kind of the nice sweet spot where I think we provide the most value. And the little tip in terms of how the selection committee that we're running picks the company. Of course, we love to see some Salesforce DNA and making sure you can make the best use of those technology. But frankly, we're really trying to see how marginally we can help over the 5 months to actually go to the next level. So we we're not here necessarily to pick the best companies like a VC would think with the best, financial outcome. We're really trying to say, okay, based on what you're doing and the use case you want to build and the technology we have available and where you're coming from, this is where we can help the most in 5 months time frame. And that's kind of what came out of the first batch. That's what we're doing with batch 2. So if you have friends, families who happen to have a startup in those verticals, by all means, send them before July 15. Put in the referral that you were at the session at Trailhead DX. It's always good to have a little tip. With that, I'm done with the presentation. Can do a Q&A.
So expect those companies to be based in the Bay Area?
Good question. Absolutely not. Then we don't expect the companies to be based in the Bay Area. Actually, in batch 2, we have a company from Italy, another one from Austria, another one from Hawaii. So they travel from around the world. We just require them to be physically here during the 5 months. By that, I also mean being legally allowed to work in the US. Don't make any political statement right now. But yes, the program has to include, the obligation to be physically located. But by all means, you can apply from anywhere. Any other question? Yep.
Incubator, physically here means 5 days a week in wherever it is, or?
Yeah. I'm glad I have a question about the incubator. That's a little baby. So no, it's actually in San Francisco. So yeah, we require the company to be there 5 days a week. That said, here's the deal. When you're starting to have a 15, 20 company people, as long as you have a co-founder, someone senior in the development team, and maybe a product person who can actually benefit from this to get benefit from the programming, we're good. You don't have to relocate the entire company based on the size, right? Any other question on AppExchange? Any feedback? Yep.
For the AppExchange, and I'm new, so forgive me if this is ignorant.
Yep.
Is it possible to create apps in the Salesforce Exchange that can be used for business solutions within my company?
Within your what?
Within my company, to create a business solution through an app. Is that possible?
So basically, this gentleman is new and he's asking if you can create an app for your own company available on the AppExchange. I think it's going to be visible by everyone, so we don't have this idea of a private app exchange, if you will, right? But of course, you could build an app that could be available to your employees. I've seen companies who are playing and flirting with the idea of making a spin-off if you happen to not be too competitive focused and build something that could be useful for your industry. And also something I didn't mention, you have also a lot of free apps. So we're trying to be careful. It's not a way to get a lead and then charge later. It's really a free apps, but we have a lot of free apps on the AppExchange, which, by the way, for this audience might be a first kind of way to get in. The process to get listed is actually a bit lighter. We still have a security review, but the idea is you can get started. And a lot of our admins, MVPs, maybe some of them in the room, actually publish a lot of apps. That's kind of the power of the community. It's also open to our Salesforce employees. We call it Salesforce Labs. We have a lot of free apps. That might not be a business. Don't forget, I started this session by trying to inspire you to potentially at some point build a business. But some of the apps on the AppExchange are literally just little widgets. So it can be a Lightning components. It can be a lot of different things. Did anyone in the room have actually a listing on AppExchange that you own? No? All right, here we go. So a lot of opportunities there. We have 3,000 apps. We need more to get to that big mountains that I mentioned earlier. Any other question? It's getting more cozy, so don't be shy, All right, cool. Well, with that, then, thank you for your attention, and keep me posted. You have my email. Tweet at us if you build something. We'd be happy to feature you. It would be kind of a fun story at Trailhead DX 18 if someone started and got inspired. It's very rewarding. That's the best thing on my job is we're talking, and you've seen in the keynote of this idea of no code, high code, trying to empower with Trailhead. I mean, this is something very core to Salesforce, but I think also to the employees. And by all means, don't be shy. I think the Salesforce platform really enables it to start in an easy way, right? So forget about all the press and all those big, headlines about company X raise money and TechCrunch. All that stuff is great. It's a very Silicon Valley-centric kind of world. There's a lot of businesses you can build there. And the go-to-market is easy. AppExchange is there for you. So